All right, welcome back to another episode of D2D Success Stories. Here today with Parker Anderton. Welcome, bro.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Yeah, man. So we got some mutual friends. Obviously, I've had some of your boys from the Grit on before,
Yep.
and then one of my main guys I work with, Alex Butterfield, was like your mission companion,
Yeah, not just my mission companion. He was my mission companion for like almost 12 months straight.
which is absurd.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I think.
And then,
I never had a mission companion for more than 3 months.
yeah, it was unique. Even in our mission, it was.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It was kind of crazy. And then we still hang out. Get our kids together all the time. So we were obviously friends on the mission, but then it's kind of carried for the last, I don't know how long I've been home, 5-6 years.
It's awesome.
So
That's awesome. Cool. So I'll kind of intro you and then we'll go back to the beginning. So one of the partners at the Grit, and we were talking beforehand, you and another guy, Skylar Griffin, is that right? Manage an org where you've got, you'll have what, 400 or 500 people this summer? Thereabouts, yeah. Gonna do, I think you said last year you did.
last year we did 38.5 million.
What's the target this year?
50 plus. I don't know. I mean, we're still kind of dialing in that target, but we want all of our guys to kind of hit that next tier of leadership. So it'll be really fun to, 50 is kind of like, I think, the die goal. But I think hopefully we'll blow past that.
Yes. Yeah. I operate on die goals too, so I resonate with that. Cool, man. So that's where we are now, and also two-time Golden Door winner. Let me just throw that one in early. But let's go back to the beginning. So talk to us a little bit about growing up, where you're from, school, that type of thing.
So I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah. I went to Olympus High School. Graduated. Didn't, it's funny. I don't know why I was like this, but I could never decide a career. It's like one day I was going to be a lawyer, then a doctor. And I think I had really expensive tastes as a kid.
Yeah.
I was looking at car magazines. I remember the Porsche Carrera GT was like the all-time car for me. And so what I thought I wanted was, hey, what career can I go into where I can make money to live the lifestyle that I want?
Yeah,
right?
that's how I was too.
And so, spent a lot of years in college changing majors. And, school, like I'm smart.
Yeah.
But school was just this, like, it was constant friction. I would see these people that just, like, loved school naturally. And I was just never like that. And I learned pretty early on in college that it's because I'm very hands-on. If I'm learning something to take a test, as soon as I take the test, I forget it.
Yeah.
When I was learning hands-on, I would retain it really, really well. And so that I just always struggled with in school, I think, because of that, because you're learning stuff that just wasn't applicable most of the time to life right then and there. So yeah, I went to college, was at the University of Utah. Then I went to UVU and just changed majors all the time, and ended up, my first year I was living at the University of Utah, transferred to UVU, had a random roommate named Ben Egan, and both of us had another random roommate named Josh who I remember he drove a Saab 9.5. That at the time, this was like 2012, was like pretty cool.
Yeah.
He was paid off. He like lived a really cool lifestyle. And I remember he just was so casual, like, yeah, I made $70,000 last summer, like selling pest control. Didn't even know what really pest control was. But I was just the lay down recruit, dude. I'm like, tell me how I get into that industry. So
Easy.
It was Aptives, before they sold, their name was Altera.
Yes.
Went in, and like I said, I don't think I had any objections. I was like, oh, dude, like I can work hard, and if you're telling me I can write my own paycheck, I'm in. Because I had worked for so long in industries where, I felt like I would try to be an overachiever, but I would get paid as the same as the person who was an underachiever. So
I'm always on the fence about the nice car thing, like, do you want your recruits to see you in a nice car? Or because, man, I've got guys who just drive a dirt wagon and they're like, well, my recruits can know about my real estate property.
Yeah.
Anyway, cool.
Dude, well, for what it's worth on that, I think it's not uncommon to make sure that it depends on the position you're in any company. But like, I remember, I'd always hear my aunt's in real estate, and she'd always talk about how like having a nice car, people will size you up when you pull up to the real estate appointment.
Yeah.
And, I've had real estate agents pull up in cars that aren't that nice. And, dude, it's terrible that I think this way. But immediately my mind goes to, I wonder if they're not that good of a real estate agent.
Well, dude, it's a tough line to walk, because I don't think anybody wants to be the smoke and mirrors, like flashy, bought a car on debt, whatever, you don't want to be fake.
For sure.
But at the same time, you also don't want to be so understated and so humble about it that yeah, like you said, like this guy make money at all? Like,
Yeah, and I think there's a progression, right? Like I
Yeah.
didn't drive a nice car my first 5-6 years in the industry, and I think that it just really depends on the person, where they're at, like, so.
yeah. Anyway, random side note. Okay, so grew up here, went to school, just happened to be roommates with guys who, along with yourself, are kind of, all-time industry OGs at this point. So that's cool. Sweet, man. So like you said, lay down, recruit. How do you kind of get started? Like what's rolling into that first summer look like?
Yeah, so I like partied pretty hard in high school in my first year of college, and was really just trying to get away from that. And so in a weird way, it kind of checked a bunch of boxes. It was like I was trying to go on a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But I was also trying to stay away from a crazy lifestyle that I had previously lived.
Yeah.
And then when this guy tells me he's making all this money, I'm like, okay, so I could move away from my crazy lifestyle.
Get some separation.
I can make really, really good money. And it just kind of, again, ticked a bunch of boxes for me. Almost naively, I don't think I had like any questions. Like I was never worried about it being like an MLM, or that I never thought there was any risk involved with it. And, I think my mom was really skeptical.
Yeah.
Because all she heard was like, hey, Mom, I'm going to go sell this pest control stuff door to door, make tons of money. I'm going to,
Yeah, so this is before your mission. So you're 19, 20 years old.
Yeah, I'm 19. I think I was 19.
Yeah.
And, dude, I mean, I went out there. It's like, man, was it a kick in the teeth. Like just being fully, first time I'd ever really, it was the first time I'd ever lived out of state. The apartment complex we were in, dude, it was like I see like the systems that people roll into now in any industry, right? Whether it's windows, alarms, like, dude, they roll into these like systems.
Yeah.
Dude, I rolled up in Columbus, Ohio. My first roommate or my first car partner was like smoking cigs between doors, breaking walls he got fired his third or fourth day in because it failed a drug test. And because he failed the drug test, he just trashed the whole house. Oh. This was like my first week.
Yeah. You're just a kid, man.
Yeah. And I'm just like I don't, and then the sad thing about it is I drove my 1999 Subaru all the way out there, and it legitimately, there was no other option than to succeed because I couldn't afford to get back.
Yeah.
So, you're staring down the barrel of 4 to 5 months. That's what your first week is like. And also, dude, like I basically got my training the day I showed up. I remember I get to the Altair office, they hand me a, training manual, and they said, look, memorize this tonight. You're going to take a test tomorrow. And if you pass, you can go out and sell. That was my training. So, man, I was unprepared. It was culture shock. It was change. First time living outside of Utah. And like I said, I think what was good, though, is it was kind of like I didn't have any other option but to figure it out.
Well, that's a good thing you stuck, man. I'm not sure I had that in me at that age, to be honest.
Well, really quick on that, dude. Here's what's funny is I don't think I naturally did have it in me.
Yeah.
One phone call changed my life, right? Called my mom, said I'm done. Like I was literally crying on a curb, and she's like, well, I didn't raise a quitter, and hung up on me.
Oof.
And I don't know that my mom has ever talked to me like that before, and I don't think she's ever talked to me like that since, and she probably doesn't even remember that call. But, dude, that call made me realize, like, okay, I can quit right now and I can be a quitter the rest of my life, or I can be someone who, puts their big boy pants on and figures it out. And from that point on, it was that call really changed my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she said basically like 4 or 5 words. Yeah. I didn't raise a quitter. Profound.
Yeah. So, was there like a turning point, like you started to sell or?
Not that first year. No, I just remember, I got exactly what my goal was. My goal wasn't to like really make a certain amount of money. It was to finish, because I had really not finished a lot of things up to that point in my life.
Okay.
And when the goal is not finish, or is just to finish, man, you're setting yourself up for success, because I just had to keep showing up every day. And naturally, like I got better. But yeah, there wasn't really a turning point. I was just like, look, prove to yourself you can finish, prove to yourself you can finish, prove to yourself you can finish. And that's all I thought about. And then the sales kind of naturally came because I was showing up every day.
Yeah, hitting doors.
So, yeah.
Even if you're not good, there's X amount of laydowns, right? Dude, it's funny what you said, like your goal was to finish because you hadn't finished many things up to that point in your life. I'm just thinking about this now because honestly, I don't think I would have handled that at 19. I was like this like college football player. I had 2 or 3 things that I did. That was it, like very narrowly focused, but I was good at all of them, right? Maybe that was the problem, is like I could only tolerate being good at things. I think if I had went out and just been like a kid dropped off on a curb and felt like I was an idiot, whoosh, would have been gone.
Yeah.
I don't know. Probably something there about like just where your focus is, what your tolerance is, and yeah, I don't know. I'll have to think on that one more. Got me thinking.
Well, and it's interesting because like where you kind of had those three things, dude, I changed sports every year. I was like at one day I'd want to be in high school like a pro skateboarder, and then I'd want to be a pro wakeboarder, and then the next season I'd want to be a pro snowboarder, and then I'd want to be pro at lacrosse. Like I just constantly changed, and I think that's what caused me to kind of feel like, dude, I never stuck with like one thing or never put tons of focus in one thing. And so weirdly, sales created this environment where I could just focus on like one thing. Uh-huh. And I'm not like sad that I, did so many, because now I just have all these different sports, that I enjoy.
Yeah.
I'm not great at any of them, but I can do all of them.
Yeah.
But I think, again, my whole junior high, elementary, high school career was like, it was never like, oh, I had these 2 or 3 things I was focusing on. It was like, oh, what's Parker going to focus on this week?
Right. Definitely had some like open-mindedness, like ability to be like, okay, this is what I do now, or at least this is what I'm doing currently.
Yeah.
Just got to rock with it. Cool. So you finish, what would you sell? 100 accounts? Or?
So like 152 accounts at like a 420 ACV. I think it was like 65K, in revenue. So definitely wasn't sexy, definitely wasn't special, but I never bageled once. That was something I like really prided myself on.
Nice.
Doesn't mean that if people, sell 0 in a day their first year, they're going to suck. But it was just, I knew that I could find 1 sale a day if I worked really hard, and I was able to do that. But yes, 65K is like not impressive these days.
Well, when you said your goal was just to finish, my immediate like skeptical thought in my head was like, well, yeah, but like how many days do you just like spend sitting on an electrical box or something? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but
and I never
if you're
did,
selling
which
an
was
account
interesting.
every day,
Yeah.
then they were bona fide days.
Yeah, something that's funny, and I try to teach this to people, and if you're listening to this and you naturally have a tendency to like sit down on a curb, nothing will make time go slower. Nothing will make your experience more sour, and nothing will make you feel like less than sitting on a curb, right?
Right.
When people are complaining about the summer taking forever, it's because, again, they sit on their car. Like if you just actually work the hours, you knock the doors until your car partner actually picks you up, dude, the summer goes by fast.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I started to enjoy the summer, because that first year I don't think I really ever sat on a curb. I never took these long breaks because, dude, when I did that, the time felt like it was stretched.
Yeah.
But if you just actually work the hours, dude, the day started to like click by.
Right.
So kind of a reverse thing. You think you need a break when you're struggling.
That's a great little kind of example there too, because you're 19-year-old kid with cokehead car partner or whatever, and you sold every day of the summer.
Yep.
By being there, period, right? Cool, man. So what happens next?
So I got home, went on my mission. I literally had like a 4 or 5 day gap between when I got home from the summer and when I went on my mission.
Wow.
So I actually didn't get to experience that like euphoria of getting a back end. I remember called my mom on Christmas. She checked my bank account more than anything just to make sure I got paid. Because again, we still didn't know if this was like a legit business. And lo and behold, I got like a $20,000 check or something like that. But again, my focus was now, a mission, right? Serving Jesus Christ. And so like the money, it was like, oh, cool. And then moved on. Forgot about it until I got home. Told myself I would never sell again because it was just hard, right? Went back, and again, even though I had got that money, I never really felt like I had it. So when I got home from the mission, I just went right into like a call center job.
Okay.
And then you start to realize how hard it is. Like I started to look at the account from sales and the account for my new job, and I'm like, dude, it's going to take me 20 years to get the same amount of money based off what I'm saving. And Ben Egan at that time, who was one of my best friends, he had been selling for Vantage, kept telling me to come and hang out with him. I knew he was trying to recruit me, but I was like, dude, no way was I going to do it.
Yeah.
And then kind of one-leggered me and was like, look, dude, let's just like get you signed up. You can come out, or we'll plan on you coming out, and you call me the day before and back out.
At least that way you have the option.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then it's just like as it got closer, I didn't have a better option and went out. And then my second year was very different than my first year as far as like mindset, belief, goals, everything.
So let's talk about the call center versus this thing for a minute. When you went out, the first summer before your mission, was that like your first kind of real job?
I had worked ever since I was 15.
Okay.
My parents, I think something that I'm really grateful they instilled in me is like my parents probably could have bought me all the things I wanted, right? But
Yeah.
at one point, my mom was like, look, you don't need a new snowboard every single year.
Yeah.
Now, to me, that was like heartbreaking that she would say that to me. Of course, I needed a new snowboard every year.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's like, look, if you want a new snowboard, like we'll get you a snowboard every 3, 4, 5 years. We'll get you a season pass. But if you want all this new gear and stuff every year, then you need to get your own job. So worked at a restaurant when I was 15, then worked at a snow shack, then worked back at a restaurant. Then, worked at a wedding reception center, worked at a property development firm. I kind of like always worked because it was this, again, I didn't have a lot of expenses because I was living at home most of that time.
Yeah.
But just that extra money, it's like if I wanted to be the most stylish guy on the hill, I was making money. I'd go buy new gear every year.
Right.
And I think that was a really like empowering feeling to me.
Yeah.
So I definitely worked before, but when your expenses are zero, making a couple $100 a week goes far.
It's a lot. Yeah.
So it wasn't until I started to experience real life, insurance, actually having to pay for like, an apartment complex. That's when life started to realize like, oh, dude, making this type of money, I don't have that much money left over to actually save.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I asked. I asked that because sometimes the guys who, and we've all been this guy at some point to some extent, sometimes the guys who have like the least appreciation for door to door, it's because it's like all they've ever done. Like they really young got in, murdered it their first summer, and then 3 years later they're like, dude, I'm just really trying to get out and go to something better. And me, who I like took a more circuitous route, did other things first and then did door to door. I'm like, oh, buddy, there's
Yeah.
I don't think you fully appreciate what we do here.
Yeah. Well, and even I didn't really appreciate it till my second year. Because again, my first year, I only really experienced the hard work. I didn't get to experience that like freedom and flexibility and money because that came again on my mission.
Oh, yeah, I get it. Yeah.
And so the second year is when I started to really have that idea of like, oh my gosh, I can write my own paycheck. I can increase my earnings every year. Where, again, I would see, friends, family where like, dude, if you're getting a 5% raise a year, like you're crushing it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I could get a 100% raise this year and I'm the one that's in control of it.
Because you didn't appreciate the back end because it came while you were on your mission.
Yeah.
Got you. Okay, so second year you go out, and how do you do?
So my first year I did 152 accounts. I just had this, again, it wasn't rooted in money the second year. It was like, look, dude, and I got right back home from my mission, essentially a couple months, and then went out to sell. No extra training in between that time. And I just thought, I wonder if I could sell 300 accounts. Like, met with I had like a class in college where I had to meet with a bunch of like CEOs from companies in the Utah Valley. And there was this common trend among them.
Is it that entrepreneurship class that Casey Ball does?
No, okay. I was at UVU.
Oh, yeah.
So
okay.
I actually don't remember what class it was, funny enough. But for some reason, that was the precept, is meet with these CEOs, learn their story, learn their habits, and like learn something from it.
Cool.
And I saw this common trend among like, again, really successful people of like, you don't always have to know the how of the goal, but set the goal, have the cojones to set the how, or excuse me, to set the end goal, and then figure out the how along the way.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I was like, all right, 300 to me, that's double what I've done before. It seemed actually impossible. And then I just put into practice a couple of systems that probably didn't make a lot of logical sense, but I had heard podcasts or people talking about them. So the first thing I did is I put 300 on my background on my phone, background on my iPad, background on my computer. I got sticky notes and wrote 300 everywhere on my toothbrush, my mirror, my shoes. I just wanted to see the number 300.
Sounds very Cardone-esque.
Yeah, and I don't remember who I learned it from. And again, I didn't have any other skills. I'd just been on a mission for 2 years and was like, well, I want to make money. The goal is 300, so let's just put it in front of me.
Yeah.
I vividly remember one time being bored at school and I wrote 300 times in the shape of 300. I'm not saying that's the way to sell 300 accounts, but there was something interesting that happened. When I first set the goal, I didn't believe that I could do it. I would say it out loud, but there was no belief behind it, right? The more that I wrote 300, the more that I saw it, the more that I was vocal about my goal to other people, I started to have this like belief where before I ever knocked my first door that second summer, I already believed I could do 300, but it didn't start that way.
Yeah.
So I think there's like some things to take from that. Like you don't have to necessarily believe you can do it when you originally set the goal, but you need to find a way to create that belief, right? Went out, sold 300. I literally like 4 hours before my flight home, sold my 300th account.
Nice.
And that was it was a very different feeling than my first year because, dude, it was like the most addicting feeling ever. Dude, I can set a goal that has no logical reason as to why, like no track record says I can do it. And I can set the goal before I have a process of how to get there, and I can go out and do it. And that feeling, I think, taught me like, dude, I could do anything.
Right.
So that I don't even remember what the amount of money I made that year. But I will forever remember the feeling that I got from hitting a goal that seemed unachievable.
Okay. So I think I would normally ask like, why were you better, and kind of with some like implication of training and tactics and all that type of stuff. But I suspect you would kind of downplay that and tell me it's mindset.
Yeah, I mean, I was older, right?
Yeah.
So there's probably some like things that just like
Got more confident talking to people.
got more confident. But I also just I think some of it is, again, you get what you focus on. You hit where you're aiming, right? And so because I was aiming at 300, I had this like thing to pace myself. If I was selling below that, I would train more at night, right? And I also had this legitimate feeling of like, I was almost okay not hitting my goal as long as no one ever outworked me. And weirdly accepting that, hey, there is a possibility that I could not hit this goal, but understanding it will not be because I was outworked. That was like a very big, I wanted to be the first one on the doors, the last one off the doors. I wanted to get the most sales in every neighborhood. And I think that, dude, I don't think I'm the most talented. I still believe I am not the most talented whenever I go sell, but I believe I'm the hardest worker. And I believe the quote that hard work will beat talent all day.
Yeah. Agreed.
And I've worked with a lot of talented people that don't have hard work and they don't do very much. And I've also worked with people that are genuinely not very talented, but they put in the hours, they work, they train like Kobe Bryant, and then they go out and they do incredible things.
Yeah. I like how you start, because you just started with the end goal, right? How many sales you wanted to have in the summer. Because I say that because sometimes people will have like a goal for how many doors they want to hit in a day, or I don't know, all these little things. Like, are you pretty well acquainted with what your ratios are?
Yeah. I mean, but they change throughout the year.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's really hard, at least for me. I think that an important topic to this is understand how goal setting works for you. Some guys really struggle to set a goal like 300 because they're always trying to pace it, and it makes them worse, if that makes sense.
Yeah. They carry the 300 with them to every door.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For me, it's just like, I'm just not, I understand, like I'm probably just naturally, every year, no matter how long I've been doing it, I'm probably going to be better months 2, 3, and 4 than I am month 1. And so I really try to not buy into whatever's happening, because if you look at all 8 of my full summers, typically my first month or 2, I'm not even close to the top. And then by the end of it, I'm like top 5.
Yeah.
And I think that's because I focus on the end. I'm like, look, I can get there. And if I'm not there right now, it's okay. I'll get there, and I keep going, versus like, I think so many people freak out when they don't have the first week or first month that they want to have. But I believe in the law of 1%. So that's, again, what I would, that 300 year, the next year after that, people want to get 10, 15, 20% better. They want to have a bad day, go to a training with their manager, hear something incredible, and then all of a sudden go out and be 15% better.
Right.
I just don't believe that's like how life works. And so I'm okay with taking the long road to success, which in door-to-door, what that means is, dude, like you can actually get 1% better every day.
Okay.
And so sometimes, I would say, okay, in this neighborhood, dude, I was getting punted after the intro every day. So tomorrow, my only goal is to just get punted after the service, getting a little bit further in the pitch.
Yeah.
But that might not lead to the increase in sales that I'm looking for. But if I get 1% better actually every day of the summer, then by the end, dude, you're going to make up for all the crap at the beginning.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I try to sell. And I think every year that's what I've really focused on, is like, it's accept where you're at, look at your process. And that's why I say it's hard to know my exact ratio, because sometimes my ratios are different in different neighborhoods. So I figure out, hey, what did I struggle with yesterday? What could I do today that will get me 1% better than yesterday? And if you can like actually embody that and do it, dude, it's like impossible to not be successful.
Say what you said again about how goals work for each person or something like that.
Yeah, so I think it's important to understand kind of, again, I believe there's essentially 2 categories of people.
Okay.
One category is Ben Egan. He does not want to set a goal of 800 accounts.
Yeah.
He wants to say, hey, I'm going to go out and do as much as possible. If he sets the goal of 800, for whatever reason, mentally, it like stresses him out. Because I'd always be like, dude, Ben, what's your goal this year? He's like, I don't have a goal. I'm just going to go do as much as possible. And I'm like, that just doesn't work for me, right?
Yeah.
And so it's okay to understand that there's not a right or a wrong way, but what works for me is actually having an end goal. and really working towards it, right? That doesn't stress me out. So I think it's looking at like your past jobs, the past ways you've set goals, and understanding like what type of goal setting works for you. Setting the goal of 300 motivates me to get better.
Okay.
Some people, they set a goal that's really big, and it like they see the gap between their performance and their potential, and it cripples them and makes them worse. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I think it's, I'm going to have to ponder on that and think about it some, because I think the idea that it's just that it's individualized at all is a new one for me. I'm very, very linear about my goals. I'll confess, I absolutely get up in front of my org. Sometimes I say, guys, this is how goals work. You do it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's how it works. It's just super, super black and white sometimes. So yeah, I'll have to think on that some. So you hit 300 your second summer.
Yep.
At this point you're grown, you're in college, you don't have some event like a mission, just, imminent. Are you thinking to yourself like, okay, cool, this is what I do, let's put together a team? Or
the plan was always do it through college. I feel like it was so deeply ingrained in me that like college was the only way to be successful.
Yeah.
So you had to find a career, graduate in college, and then you start in your career. In sales, it was like, cool, well, if I can do what's expected of me by society, which is go to college and then get a career and make really good money along the way, then like, cool, as soon as I figure out my career, I'll just make the transition.
Yeah.
And I think I got a lot of flack from friends and family, like kind of behind my back, because door to door, like when you tell people like that's what you do it just doesn't sound very sexy. I don't know how someone saying they work at PacSun sounds sexier, but for some reason to a lot of parents, I think that sounds sexier.
Yeah. Well, and especially if you, your circle and the people who know you are used to you being I'm going to have a super defined white collar type career path guy. So then the door to door thing might sound a little incongruous.
Well, and I think that the industry, when I was in it, there was all these older guys they had embodied the career, and I think I was almost afraid to ever even think this could be a career, even though like they lived the dream lifestyle and it was right in front of my face. There was kind of two parts to that. One, I didn't believe I could ever be good enough at the job to like be in their position.
Okay.
Number two, I just didn't want to accept that like there's almost this like heartache of saying like, would I ever want to tell, like when I get married one day, I want to tell like my future wife's parents I sell like pest control. Like that would just be embarrassing. I don't know why. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't think that I had like a plan. But I wanted to recruit. I knew there was money in recruiting, and I tried really, really hard, at least what I thought was really hard, and just didn't have a lot of success in the recruiting side of it. I'd recruit 1 or 2 people. One would finish, then they wouldn't come back. Just kind of this perpetual cycle.
Yeah.
But I always knew that I could bet on myself. And so interestingly enough, my third year, my mission president used to say this quote, "A true champion will go back to back." And I think it was a way of motivating you after like a win.
Yeah.
And so I remember after setting the goal of 300, hitting it, third year, the same thing. I'm like, well, dude, maybe it was a fluke. Maybe the market was better. Maybe I was more mature, right? Maybe it's all these other factors. Or I was like, but maybe it's me. I was like, I know how to prove to myself it was me. I'm going to set the exact same goal. I'm going to try to double again. No money associated to the goals. Like, I'm going to sell 600 accounts. And again, lo and behold, I sold my 600th account like the day I left, right? So...
And this is what, like 2015 or something?
So my mission 14 to 16. So then 17 would be my second year. So it'd be like 2018.
Okay.
So
yeah.
Yeah, and again, I think that, and that's when I started to, again, I had confidence that it was because of me when I did 300, but it was almost like people would say that to me. Yeah. Oh, do you think it's just because you're older? Do you think it's because you served a mission? Do you think it's because you're more mature? Life is more meaningful. I don't know. And you almost start to like take credit away from yourself.
Which is funny because those things are fine.
Yeah.
It's not like any of those would constitute cheating or something, but you wanted it to be because you're a goal achiever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I thought, what an easy way to say, dude, like anyone could maybe walk into a goal once, but they're not going to do it. They're not going to double 2 years in a row just by happen chance. Yep. And so I think doubling the second year, that fourth year just was like really, really, or it would be my third year, was really cool for me. And really said, hey, like, and that's when my idea started to be open, like maybe I could do this for a long time. It still wasn't like there. It just kind of was like an idea. And then it was a couple years later that finally it was like, let's go all in on this.
Okay. And why do you think, because you mentioned that you'd have recruits start and fall off. Obviously you've recruited a lot by now and figured it out. Why do you think it didn't work out back then?
Dude, I don't know. I wish I could figure that out and go redo it.
Yeah.
I wish I could figure it out. I think that there was some parts of it was there just wasn't great systems a lot of times I was bringing people into. Maybe it was like I was setting bad expectations and the manager was. I don't really know.
Yeah.
I also just think like, dude, if you only take 4 or 5 shots and you miss 3 of them, like you didn't give yourself that many chances to make the shot, if that makes sense.
Right.
Dude, if you shoot 1,000 shots, you're giving yourself a ton of opportunities to make it. And so the other thing was, I believed that I was trying really hard to recruit, but it's like I was reaching out to the same 50 people every year. So I wasn't really trying to recruit. My 4th year in, so again, at the end of my 3rd year, I quit recruiting. I said, you know what? I'm going to sell for the next couple of years. I don't care if I don't make any money off recruiting. I'm not going to be a recruiter. Thank goodness Ben Egan saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And so he had me like train all of his guys that year. So then I had this experience where I got to train all these guys. They go out and crush it. And a lot of them would like thank me, right, for training. And I was like, well, dude,
You got a taste for leadership.
yeah, I loved that. That's when I really realized like I love being a part of someone's experience. I love training them and having someone say, hey, that training really benefited me or really changed my summer. And so I think it was like somewhere in my 4th-ish year, I had 0 guys. You know, I had just watched all my friends make a ton of money from recruiting because they all did it. And I said, I'm going to quit, right? And Ben Egan had some conversation with me that went along the lines of like, hey, dude, like, I think you tell yourself you're recruiting and you try really hard, but I don't think you really are. Like, dude, if you want to be a recruiter, I want to see you put it all on the line. And he like, meaning you are literally doing everything. And if you're not successful, it's because you've exhausted every option. Like, can you tell me, Parker, that you've exhausted every option? And it's like, probably not. Like, have you done booths? No. Have you knocked doors in promo? No. Have you talked to, and so it was that fundamental shift that was like, cool. Set a goal to have 25 recruits that year. And I actually got 25 recruits. But if you look at like what I did, I was like, look, if I fail this year, it's not going to be because I didn't put it all on the line. I literally knocked doors in pro. Hey man, how's it going? I'm Parker. Have you ever heard of door-to-door sales? Well, dude, like I'm having a pizza meeting tonight.
Yeah.
Love to tell you a little bit about it. Bring all your roommates.
Yeah.
Got 0 recruits from doing that. But I did it week and week.
Wow.
You know, I did like.
I'm sure you sharpened your skill set.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I didn't get any recruits through it. So, but again, it was more, I think, showing myself like, hey, like I'm actually out here to put it all on the line, right?
Yeah.
Then I remember I did like 9 or 10 booths with 0 success.
Just like thinking out loud here, was like embracing door to door as more of a career path. Did that happen somewhere around then? I just asked because maybe prior recruits like sensed like a touch of like lack of commitment, whereas later ones knew you were in it for the long haul.
For sure, because I remember when I told myself, look, Parker, when you get your first recruit, you are going to take better care of him than anyone else. I got him a sweatshirt. I got him a book. I met with him 2 times a week because I was like, look, if I get a recruit, let's make him feel special. Let's put all of it into him. And so for sure, I think the recruits felt that. And also just, again, I exhausted every option. My first recruit was through my mom. Yeah. I said, hey, Mom, I suck at recruiting. I have this goal to be good. I'm sure you run across people all the time that you think would be good at this job. Send them my way.
Yeah.
My second recruit was through my dad, right? Like just these really weird ways of doing it. But I think it was like the universe. I had to be putting in all this work, doing booths, knocking doors, whatever, so that the universe saw that I really wanted it.
Yep.
And then all this, it just started happening. And I still didn't believe I could do it as a career, but I thought, hey, if I'm going to do this for the next 2 or 3 years, I want to squeeze the max amount out of it. And I also just was like, dude, I want to be able at the end of these 2 or 3 years, dude, I want to be a life changer because this has changed my life. And so I want a lot of people to be like, dude, I'm grateful Parker brought me this in, or I'm grateful Parker brought me in this industry because it changed their life. I feel like I owed it to the industry, right?
Yeah.
And then, I remember that year setting a goal because, again, I'm always thinking of what's next, what's the future. And I remember thinking like, oh, dude, it would be so cool if I could have 100 recruits. Like if I could have 100 recruits, I'll go all in. Like I'll do this as a career. But it was also this, the angel on the shoulder, you can do it. Devil on the shoulder is like, dude, 100. You just spent an entire off season to get like 25. Good luck.
Yeah.
Right. And then it's like, dude, the next year after that, 70 recruits, next year after that, 150, 170. And it was like, all of a sudden I remember looking back and I had forgotten that I even set the goal of 100 recruits. I just got lost in the work. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, I'm here. And then it was the first year of the Grit where I took ownership, right? Where we were at GreenX, had an opportunity to, step away and create our own thing while still having a great partnership with GreenX. And I remember Ben just saying like, look, we are the company now. So like, look, either you're all in or you're all out. And like, but if we're all in, like we got to bet on each other. And it was never betting on pest control.
Yeah.
It was never betting on a pest control company. It was like, look, this group of people, I actually believed, I'm like, if I bet on them and they bet on me, we will go really, really far. And so it didn't matter what. I remember the room. Ben was like, hey, dude, we're going to sell this. We're going to start our own company this year. I'm like, cool. What are we selling?
Yeah.
And he could have told me meats, windows, alarms. I just knew that I was with the right people. That I'm glad he said pest control because I already knew how to sell that.
Right.
But if he would have said something else, we would have figured it out.
Yeah. It's got common values and, a shared culture between all of you and kind of a brand, what you stand for, right?
Yeah. And something interesting, and again, this isn't a shot at anyone in the industry, right?
Right.
But I will say there are a lot of backwards things that happen in the industry. Dude, you have rookies getting paid different percentages, which I don't think is fair, especially for rookies because they haven't done anything to earn that different percentage, but it's a friend of a friend or a brother. And I had been a recipient of that, you know what I'm saying? And I had seen the toxicity that brings when there's all these backdoor deals. And so one of the cool things that I knew about working with Ben and Calvin and Skylar is I was like, look, I know that these guys, because I've seen it, will always do what's right. Because again, I think we're all human.
Yep.
And if you don't believe you are capable of making mistakes, then you're wrong. And so you want to be around someone that when you make a mistake or when someone else makes a mistake, you are going to be a group that holds each other accountable. And so I knew there'd be times where I wanted to pay someone different or where in my mind I could justify paying rookies differently. But with the group of guys we had, I was like, dude, we will always do what's right. And again, so I was betting on them, and they were betting on me, but it was also just understanding, like, look, Parker, you might not always be perfect, but if you're with these people, they will make sure that the right thing always happens.
Yeah.
And I've seen that, like, over and over and over again. We had a really interesting thing this last year where some pay got kind of jumbled, and this, like, basically one rep we found out was underpaid by a certain amount, but all the money was already out. The kid was happy with what he got. It's not like he was missing. I think it was like 10 grand.
Yeah.
But it just like, we figured out some stuff. And I remember just in that moment being like, shame on me for saying something like this. But it's like, well, dude, he's already happy with what he gets paid. Because it wasn't coming from me. We would have had to change like 5 other people's pay to get this guy's pay right.
Yeah.
So again, there was something wrong in the system. And I remember Garth. So, and this story is why I bet on these people, because I knew stuff like this would happen. Yeah. Garth looked at me and said, I do not care who this hurts. If it's the right thing to do, we do it every time.
Yeah.
So, dude, if we have to call 5 people and tell them, sorry, like we were wrong on the pay to make this one right, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And even 4 years ago, I knew that betting on those people, that kind of stuff would happen. And that's sometimes atypical to what happens in the industry.
Yeah.
So, and again, I was a human being in that moment. I was weak, and I'm glad that I was around strong people. And hopefully I can be that for other people when they have weak moments. But so glad I had people that were able to say, no, like, even if it's okay that we don't do that pay, let's do what's right at all costs.
Something I was thinking about recently is sometimes we talk about doing the right thing as being like in conflict to our own interest. And I think that it only is in the short term.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, for sure.
Like, and I don't want to make doing the right thing only about money. You do the right thing to do the right thing. But additionally, you also will make more money doing the right thing in the long term, right?
And you'll have the right people in your business, right? You want people that value doing the right thing. And naturally, like sometimes when you do the right thing, whether it's money or not, like you might offend some people, and the people will kind of weed themselves out that are more interested in like doing what's gets them ahead or what's best for them versus the right thing.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing I felt is like, dude, you kind of weed people will weed themselves out. And if you're committed to doing the right thing because it's the right thing, I think you'll be wealthier. I think you'll be happier. And I think you will attract people that also want that. And dude, at the end of the day, everyone wants to build a business based off of like honesty, ethics, having high morals.
You can work with people you trust. You can establish long-term relationships around repeat business. You know what I'm saying? It's it's the money that you gain even just by time saved, not looking over your shoulder,
for sure,
pays you back. And that's just the smallest way that it pays you back. It pays you back in a lot of other much bigger ways. So what year was that you guys found the grit? Like 20, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was 20.
20.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going into our 4th year right now.
Okay.
So that would make sense.
So there's those of you that were kind of founding members, and then what's the team look like And what's your org look like that first summer?
Yeah, so there was 4 managing partners. Like at the time of like, hey, let's create this, there was essentially like 4 managing partners, Ben, John, Garth, and Josh. They were like, name on the business, all that. And then there was a core group of us that had all worked together that we were going to be like, they were going to be the owners. We were going to be like the guys, right? The ones that run the sales program. And there was about 6, 7, 8 of us.
Okay.
And obviously, people don't realize like we were young. Still are, right? Like we didn't know what we were doing. None of us had ever started a company. None of us had ever run a company. None of us, like, we kind of just, again, bet on each other.
Wait a second. How do we register an LLC?
I'm sure, and again, I'm sure there's even more mistakes that we don't know now that we're finding out. But the business has evolved over the last 4 years, right? Where people have now kind of started, the way it works now is there's, again, the 4 managing partners. Then there's essentially 2 organizations that really make up the entire, like, grit, right?
Okay.
Mine and my business partner, Skylar's, and Drew and Easton's. And then, again, there's tons of other huge players in that. Calvin, who's been an unreal recruiter and seller. Jackson, who's arguably one of the best recruiters in the industry. And just that core leadership, dude, we've just continued to run with it, right? And what's cool is you've seen other people that were maybe in the industry just a couple years after us, like James Fox, who have also just really stepped into these like leadership roles. Brock Grieve, Wills Nilsson, So yeah, again, I don't think we had a vision of what it was going to look like. We just bet on the people, said, hey, we'll figure out the positions, what people are going to do later. And now, like, each of those managing partners kind of do different things and have different areas of focus within the business while still focusing on the business. My role has become way more focused on like the sales program with my partner. Same with, like, again, Drew and Easton. Everyone just we've kind of found positions and found, what are we good at? Where can we add the most value over the last 4 years? And we're still figuring it out. I think that in 10 years, it will look very different than it is now, but I think it will be what is going to be the best for our people.
Yep. So when you go out in 2020, you're still running a team.
Yep.
Because we were talking before we started filming the pod, you did 8 full summers on the doors.
Yep.
Right. Okay, so you go out with a team, brand new company. What's that like?
Hell.
Yeah, because I mean, you got to instill belief in everybody, not just in summer sales, pest control, et cetera, but also that the company's well run, that they're going to get paid.
Yeah. I mean, man, it was that year was also a really unique year for me. So to give you a tiny bit of backstory, the year before that was my first year really managing a team like fully on my own. Okay. And it went terrible. Right? Me and Skylar, we're not business partners, but we ran the office together. Dude, we were both new. We were overly stressed all the time. And I think we lost a lot of people. In a weird way, though, that was one of the best things that ever happened to us. By not being coddled by like our leaders, we were able to actually become leaders. And I think that there's a small little golden nugget in that. Dude, if you want to create leaders, you have to be willing to let them fail. Because obviously, if you are teaching someone who is a lower level of leadership than you, you could obviously do it better. That's why you're in your position.
Right.
And I think we have a tendency to step over them and try to just make sure it always goes perfect. My leaders that year, they let me fail, and that's what made me a great leader, I think. Because I learned from actual experiences versus my leader just always stepping in and fixing problems. Right. So anyway, move on to the first year of the grit. My wife was pregnant. It was our first year. We decided like mutually, hey, we're going to live apart this year. Not because we were separated, but because, hey, she could go to her doctor's appointments, could be more around family. I could focus on the team. And that was like the hardest year not close on the doors, right?
Yeah.
Because it meant more because it was our own company, which added an increased amount of pressure. It was really weird going from like living with my wife to like talking to my wife every couple of days on the phone, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think I quantified the toll that took on me. But yeah, it was just hard, dude. Like I did not do very well that summer. I mean, I sold a Golden Door, but I would say I wasn't happy that year.
Yeah.
And it was totally just inflicted.
Slog.
Yeah, because, dude, it was easy back in the day if we were all at GreenX to be like, oh, dude, they're selling the same services as me. Well, this year we had like 13 different companies we were selling for in 19 different states. And I was really immature that year. So I would say things like, well, dude, this company is just not as good as I wish I was at that company. And my focus shifted, unfortunately, from like, let's succeed at all costs to like,
externals.
Why am I having a harder time than this guy? Does that guy have it easier? And, I remember having a lot of conversations with Ben and John where I'm just like, this sucks. I hate this. And they were good leaders who had hard conversations like, Parker, I think this is you, dude. And you don't want to hear that at all. But I'm glad they said those things. And I do something now from that year I call it, it's a self summer audit. I do it every year now. And essentially what it is, I got back from that year and I said, Parker, let's like really look at this. Let's get really, sit down with the demons and say, what did you struggle with last year? And I was able to be really honest with myself where, hey, it wasn't because I was with this company or this market. It was because I sat in my car too long or I did this. And I started writing those down. And going into my next year, which was my best year ever, right? I was able to like really know my weaknesses and actually work on my weaknesses. And then my next year was, I think, my best year, and it's not even close of managing ever. So yeah, I mean, again, it was different. It was hard. It was overwhelming. And I think there was also this sense of security that had just left the building. It's your own company. So what if it doesn't work out?
Right.
What if you're signing this with this company and you don't get paid? Like, we didn't know. We didn't have any real security. But we knew that the vision of where we wanted to get to. And, I'm glad we all grinded. And I'm glad we had leaders that didn't freak out when I would freak out to them.
Yeah.
And, dude, I look at what we built now, dude, and it makes me, like, emotional. Right. It makes me emotional to see, like, through the amount of people whose lives we've touched, the amount of, like, growth that we've been able to be a part of, the impact we've been able to have on the industry. And, dude, I'm just really grateful that, I think that what's cool about our leadership is it wasn't one person running the company. It was, like, 15. And so, dude, I'm sure at different points, all of us were doubtful, but we could lean on the others, and that's what got us here, I think, fast.
Yeah. It takes some bravery, right? There's it's like being a kid and then all of a sudden being a dad. It's like, as a kid, like you think it's impossible that your dad could go broke.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you've got your own household and you're like, wait a second. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but that is a thing that happens to people, right? As a kid, there's just food in the pantry and
yeah,
that's the way it is. All of a sudden you're responsible for putting it there. I went through it myself, man. It's tough. It's tough to put a big old smile on your face and go run that meeting.
Oh. Yeah.
And, everything's right in the world. Oh, and then you walk into the back room and you start taking calls.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, tell us, if you wouldn't mind, tell us maybe some of the particulars that had you stressed out that year.
Again, I was one of two people with the company that we were with, and there was no one that had like proven that this company was amazing.
With the company that was going to service your deals.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. And they were great. They were a totally fine company. Really enjoyed them.
Yeah.
But there was just no like data that said like, hey, these guys are good. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I was selling a different service. I didn't know anyone that had ever sold monthly billing, and we were selling monthly billing.
Oh.
Although I believe that there really isn't a difference. You say whether you're selling monthly, quarterly, bi-monthly, at least in pest control, I think it's all really the same. It's belief in it and being able to really articulate it well to the customers. Well, dude, we were like, at least for us, there was no one to teach us how to sell monthly billing, so we were figuring it out.
Yeah.
Right, and that was really tough. It was sometimes hard to have like a lack of customer experience. Like, we were selling different services than other companies, and so at some moments, our contract values were higher or sometimes they were lower. It was just hard to compare, right? The other thing too is it was always the boys before that, right? It was like I didn't have to be the guy because there was like 5 or 6 the guys on the team.
Right.
So I could have off moments, I could have off weeks, and there was someone else to kind of fill that role.
Uh-huh.
That was the first year for me that I was the guy. If the team failed, it was my fault. If the team succeeded, it was because I at least helped, right? And I think that was really stressful because, dude, I'd go out and have a bad day and, dude, I'd be like depressed. And so a really big takeaway, though, a positive, is I learned that, dude, people typically don't need a leader who's perfect. They do want a leader who's authentic.
Right.
And so I learned that year to, again, have bad days and be okay with it. But what was more important to my people was how did I respond to those bad days? And the first 2 or 3 months, I didn't know how to respond, so I responded really poorly. But I saw the change. I remember the very last month, my team had the best month they'd ever had. Like, we all crushed it. And I think a huge reason was I stopped being a crybaby. I just started, owning it. And it's weird how one person, I'm not saying I'm the only reason that happened, but again, you kind of do in what your leader does. And so, dude, if I'm a complainer, if I'm blaming everything, then you have the right to do that as well. But as soon as I turned that off, it kind of trickled down throughout the team. So
maybe you can, add some nuance to this one for me, because this is one that troubles me sometimes. People talk about, like what you just said, people appreciate their leader being, I think you said, authentic, right? But then sometimes people will do the like, oh, well, like people want me to be honest and vulnerable, whatever. And then it's just some freaking crying like, oh,
Yeah.
dude, I can't sell either. And it's like,
Yeah.
is this actually what we want?
No, I know exactly what you're saying. And I think what that comes down to is, number one, like when I try to teach my leaders, it's teaching them what that actually looks like.
Yeah.
So for example, I have a guy calling me, he's one of my managers, he's having a terrible day and he's just sad, he's beating himself up, and I understand why.
Yeah.
Right? It's because he cares. It's teaching them how you can be authentic and be a good leader. Because sometimes being an authentic, if you're out there crying every day, you're actually now a bad leader because you're telling all your people, hey, when you have a bad day, go cry and whatever.
Yeah, well, and like you're saying, I don't have any confidence that I can sell.
Exactly.
I'm supposed to be better at sales than you, so you definitely can't sell.
Exactly.
But logically.
And so what I teach guys to do is, it's like, look, dude, you had a bad day. Dude, it's okay to be sad right now for a minute. But dude, I want you to find a way to turn that off. And when you walk into the meeting tomorrow, I want you to walk in the meeting like this. Hey guys, guess what? I bageled yesterday.
Yeah.
And do I look worried? No, because I'm a human being and I have off days, but I'm going to go out and I'm going to crush it today. And I'm not going to let one day define my belief in myself. And and I think that's authentic. It's staring in the face. It's not going into the meeting and being like, oh, I'm amazing, or start crying about it.
You're not denying the existence
of
it.
It's okay to be like, dude, I had a bad day yesterday.
Yeah.
And guys, and I was a little sad about it and I got over it, and today's going to be a great day. And you are teaching people when they have a bad day that it's okay to like maybe be sad for a second, but to like then go out and believe you can do amazing things again.
That's the thing, right? Because at its core, at their core, leaders are brave. Leaders have to be brave. So all of this, you're going to be a leader and be a crybaby all the time stuff. I don't know where the LinkedIn crazies got off with it, but.
And with leaders, dude, it's teaching them. Dude, again, a poor leader will have a bad day and complain about it to all of his guys.
Yeah.
They don't understand their job. It is okay if you need to complain about it maybe and get it off your chest, but who are you going to, right?
To your leader.
Yeah, so I go to John, or I go to Ben, or I go to Garth or Josh, and I work through it because I know that what my people need is that no matter what happened the day before, they need me to show up like a leader, someone who's excited, who's positive, who has belief. But it's also understanding, dude, like I'm a human being. I also sometimes need to talk to Ben and have him, walk me off the ledge and help me understand what's going on.
Right.
So again, as a leader, I think the first and most important thing is you have to understand your job. And this is, I'm way like passionate and bullish about this. And it took me a long time to understand this. Dude, guys aren't working with me just because they like me. It's because at some point they had a goal or a dream and they saw this job as like a vehicle to get what they want. And my job as a leader is to help them get that. And so what that means is sometimes I have to be a leader first and a friend second. And I don't think leaders understand that. Leaders, more often than not, I think the reason they are maybe not reaching their full potential is they want to be a friend first, maybe a leader second, so they don't have hard conversations. Dude, it's like, if you really, again, if you're a leader and you're listening to this, my biggest advice is sit down and think about the core. What is my job? Why are my people like working with me? What do they need from me every day? And when you start to really understand that, you'll understand why you show up in that meeting positive and ready to go. Because that's what they need out of you. I always imagine Andy Reid. I'm a big Chiefs fan, to be clear. Dude, I think about this last Super Bowl, right? And I think about what did the Chiefs need in, like they go into halftime, they're down, right? It's like, I think it's 3-10. They've had a terrible first half. And it's like, I don't imagine Andy Reid's in there like, dude, this is embarrassing, guys. Like, honestly, like, I don't even want to walk out there and be your coach. And you know what? Like, I've worked so hard, and for you to just go out and play like that, like, it's just spitting in my face. Like, I'm sad and I'm pissed. I just don't imagine. I imagine Andy Reid like totally understands his role, even if it's to give them false belief. He's probably in there like, guys, you can do this. I totally believe in you. Like, we've put in the work. And I just believe that, again, Andy Reid understands his job as a leader. Tom Brady understood his job as a leader. That, dude, even when there's no logical sense that say they can win, his job is to help them believe they can win, and that at least gives them a shot to win.
Yeah.
So I just think it comes down to, leaders don't take time, and I take a lot of time every year to ponder and write down and think and understand, what is my job? What are people expecting me to do? What do they need from me? And again, most of the time it's not, oh, they need me to be their friend. It's like, oh, dude, they actually need me to have the hard conversations with them.
Yeah, well, that's another one that is super misunderstood these days because a lot of the time what people do is they will, they'll try to wrap themselves in this cloak of empathy, or at least what they're calling empathy. I don't think it's a true kind of empathy. And then what they'll do is they'll basically not teach anybody anything.
Right.
It's like, dude, I want to be the leader who, when people go away from me and 5 years down the road, they say, Levi really helped me sell.
Yeah.
Period.
Well, that's why they worked with you.
Yeah. That guy helped me be good at my job. He was my boss, to be clear. He's not Jesus or my confessor or my wife. He was my boss, and as my boss, he helped me be good at my job.
Yeah, and I think you have to be willing as a leader to have those hard conversations. Again, if you look at my story from beginning to end, what got me to where I am was people that weren't willing to tell me, they were willing to be a leader first and a friend second. I'm sure my mom, when I called her and said, hey, Mom, I'm going to quit, even though it's different because I know she's my mom, but again, What would a friend say in that scenario? It's like, oh, you're right. It's been so tough. Like, I would totally get it. Mm-hmm. Well, what does a leader say? And my mom was a total leader in that situation. She's like, I didn't raise a quitter, and hung up. When I called Ben and said, hey, dude, I'm quitting recruiting. It's like, nah, dude, I just don't think, Parker, you've really given it your all. And so, I just think that doesn't make sense. Dude, he was willing to tell me what I needed to hear, not what I wanted to hear. And so, again, you look at the book of Parker Anderton selling from beginning to end. I am who I am because of people that were telling me what I didn't want to hear. And most of the time when those people first said that to me, I was pissed off at them.
Yeah.
So leaders, and again, I'm not saying your goal is to piss people off, but if you're a really good leader, you will tell your people what they actually need to hear to level up. And sometimes they will be pissed at you. Sometimes they will be frustrated, but at the end of it, you'll have people that say, oh, dude, I'm so glad that Parker told me that because it got me off my butt, and it helped me sell, and it helped me hit my dreams. And I've had those experiences where I've had a really hard conversation with someone where someone initially, they're pissed at me. And at the end of the summer, they're like, dude, thank you so much for loving me enough to actually tell me what I needed to hear. Every other person I called told me it was okay to be doing this or whatever.
Agreed. Now give me your take on this. What happens when you say one of those things to those people? You tell them the right thing, the thing they needed to hear, and they quit.
Yeah.
Or something. What's your conclusion? I mean.
Yeah. I think the way that you feel about that moment will be determined. It shouldn't be determined by that moment. It should be determined for however long you've worked that person, what work have you put in up to that point.
Okay.
Meaning if the only effort I'm putting in is right at the end and then they quit, then dude, I'm going to blame myself. Right?
Yeah.
But as a leader, one of the things I want to do is pour into people, help them see all the way from the beginning to whenever the end is that I love them, that I care about them, that I'm interested in their success. And if they quit, my goal is that I don't want them to quit because they felt like Parker didn't give them the tools, the leadership that they needed. It'll be because, dude, not everyone can hack it. So I'm okay with understanding some people it's not going to work out. Not every person is going to go out and sell pest control and be super successful. So I have a correct understanding that people will quit. But when those people do quit, I have felt that in the most recent years of my leadership, I've been able to sleep at night because I'm like, dude, I know I put in a ton of effort to that person. I know I showed them that I cared. I led with love. I did all these things. And so I don't think that they would tell you the reason they quit was because Parker didn't care about them.
Yeah, I love that because, I think to stick as a leader in this industry and not beat yourself up all the time, you have to be able to conclude sometimes that you were trying to help them and the job wasn't a fit. But at the same time, if you're concluding that all the time, just in every instance, without having done that gut check, had I built the rapport with this guy, did this guy trust me? Then you may also be lying to yourself in those instances, right? It's it's both things.
And again, I think it comes down to dude, something that I think a quality I've really tried to develop is I really care about people.
Uh-huh.
And again, it's the classic quote, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Right.
If you can really show people from a genuine place that you care about them through tons of experiences along the way, then if a time comes where you're meant to part ways, dude, it won't be because they resent you. Because they'll know, they'll know that you cared about them all the way throughout the process.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
two-time Golden Door winner, you got 400 or 500 guys, going to do all this revenue. What's your vision for the future now?
I would say impact. And what I mean by that is I see Casey Baugh. I see Todd Peterson. I see these guys who had an amazing run in the door-to-door industry. And I think about, dude, like Casey came and spoke to our leadership group. And dude, there like wasn't a dry eye in the room. And the amount of people that told me, dude, Casey like changed my life. Dude, Casey changed the trajectory of where I'm going. Well, Casey got that because he stuck in an industry. He worked really hard. To have that type of impact, you have to do something that qualifies you to have that type of impact, right?
Right.
So I just do that. People always ask me, is the grit going to sell? Is it going to do this? What's long? I don't know. But I want to be along for the whole ride. I want to impact as many people. I want, again, this job has like genuinely changed my whole life. So I want to help bring this life-changing thing to as many people as possible, help people achieve their dreams. And dude, if it sells in 5, 10, 15, if it never sells, I want to be a part of that the whole time. Because one day, dude, I would love to, I'm not trying to say I want to be Casey or I want to be Todd, but what I do want, where I feel like my calling as a human being is because Todd and Casey did the hard things, they can now change lives in a way that a lot of people can't. Mm-hmm. And I would love to do those hard things over the next 10, 15, 20 years because I would love to be in the position Casey's in. I think Casey, he's a spiritual man. Dude, he's a man who people look up to. He has a great life. He has a great marriage, great kids. He invests a lot. He changes a lot of lives. And dude, what more could you want? Like, I think, the thing I get the most excitement out is I see that Casey's just like genuinely happy. And I believe it's because what he says you're the closest to God when you're serving people. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I see is I'm going to be with this group of people for as long as I can see. Ben, John, Garth, Josh, Calvin, Skylar, Drew, Easton. I want to be with them, James, till the end. Uh-huh. No matter what we do, I just always want to be involved with impacting people because of all the things I've done, the money I've made, the cars we bought, all these things, nothing compares to the feeling of seeing some kid be like, dude, this changed my life. Dude, I was living in my car last year, and dude, now I'm buying my first house. Like, that's the feeling that's addicting, and I think that is what the entire grit is founded on is like, look, we want to make money, we want to have impact, but we want to like never lose the vision of let's impact the individual.
Yeah.
And if we ever start to stray away from that, like, which I don't think we will, like, I don't want to be in that anymore. So.
Love it. Well, dude, if our listeners want to catch up with you, where can they find you? Social media? Or?
Yeah, Instagram, it's @_Swandy, SWANDY. Obviously, Facebook, Parker Anderton. But DM me on Instagram. That's probably the easiest way. I'd love to set up a call, talk with you. Again, I think one thing that is a little bit different about me is, dude, I believe that I want to have lots of friends in the industry, so we don't have to work with the same company. Again, my best friend in the whole world works with you, right?
Yeah.
In Windows. And so I don't think, I'm not one of those people that's like, look, either you work with me or we don't work together at all. Like, I want to create connections and, give away some of the training and things I've learned other people. So feel free to hit me up. I'd love to talk and make connections.
Love it. Well, thanks for coming, bro.
Yeah, appreciate it.